I will be, I'll start in 1 second. Ooh, that's attractive. A lot of potential. RVN, Ren, some others. There's definitely some potential there. I wasn't planning on getting into trades, but it's going to be high risk getting in now because it's kind of early trying to catch that bottom as opposed to having a confirmed bottom and then entering in when it's lower risk. All right, give me a minute and we'll dive in. I'll spend more time. Earlier today, the public stream I did just for like a really quick BTC analysis, I only had a few minutes. So we'll go over it in more detail and I'll show you the different time frames, what I'm thinking. But we should be really close to bouncing here. All right, give me a minute and we'll get started. All right. I didn't invite public. I just invited the group, so there's not that many people online right now. What's up, Ty? What was someone was talking about something in the premium chat? Let me see what that question was. It's Crypto Jacks. Are you in live stream? I'll mention we could talk about Link briefly, but I'm not sure what I want to do with Link. I got some more on this correction for my long-term bag, but my short-term Link entry got stopped out, so I don't know if I want to get back in yet. We'll see what's up. I'm going to give it some time until I feel more confident. Let me see what it looks like right this second, actually. Just, I'm curious. It's still holding there. Yeah, it's been holding there for a while. 13.5, right at the bottom of the cloud. Okay. Yeah, I'll come back to this. So earlier today, we talked about BTC briefly. I explained the different time frames. Go back and watch that very short stream. It was only 10 minutes long. And what I was looking for. So this is that area, 11.4. I said maybe down to 11.350. In theory, potentially like the bottom of the cloud there, right at about 11.325 could be a potential bottom. Shut up, Siri. I'm not talking to you, you selfish bitch. That could be a potential bottom, but you can see we're really bottomed out in the 4 hour. But one thing to keep in mind, especially, it depends. Sometimes when the Stoke model is really dialed in and I'm getting these nice clean waves, it makes it really easy to predict every up and down reversal, right? When it's a little less well-defined, it gets harder. It's pretty well-defined here, but one thing to consider is the last time we had the correction on the 4 hour and we started a move up. That move up really stalled out. So I had entered on that low thinking that we were going to get that progress up. We barely moved up at all. And when that happens, it's usually a bearish sign. So if the Stoke right now is really low and it's oversold, it's down at anywhere below 30 or even up, in the 20s, right? So where it is right now, and it reverses and we get that bullish crossover and we start to turn up, that's an indication of a reversal in momentum. So momentum is starting to turn back up. Now, when that happens and you get this dump and then the next move up, I talk about this all the time. If the move down, right, is much larger than the move up, well, that's a downtrend, right? You're going to go down, up a little, down a lot, up a little, down a lot, and that's what happened here. We went down a lot, up a tiny bit, and then down again. Not a lot per se, but definitely more than we went up, right? So this bounce is going to be really crucial. I think it's going to bounce very soon. I just don't know if it's going to be a strong bullish bounce or a weak little sideways action, right? The one reason I mentioned in my earlier stream why I think we might actually get that bigger bounce is because the daily is really close to resetting as well. Now, it could still be a candle away, which means it might not actually fully reset and start a bullish reversal until tomorrow. So that's why I'm probably not going to get in at all. I wanted to do the stream to update you guys and to look at a few things. If we find anything, I may get into some stuff. It's unlikely right now, though. We'll look at some of the alts and I'll show you what I'm thinking. But looking at the different time frames is key. So looking at the daily, we're getting close. Maybe another candle and we can reverse. It's possible that we could end up with a bullish candle here. Maybe end up this hammer, right? So that candle right now, so far we have a decent hammer there. Of course, this daily candle just started, so there's no telling if that's going to actually hold, but that would be a potential reversal, right? If we held just like this and got that hammer candle would actually be a reversal candle. So like I said, the next candle could be the big bullish one up. It depends what happens. We might hold where we are now, sideways, stay sideways, or stay roughly where we are without going below 11,320. In which case, there's still a good chance we turn bullish. I'm pretty much guaranteeing you a couple things. One, we are imminently going to bounce. We're going to bounce within the next couple candles on the 4-hour chart. It could be a small bounce that goes sideways with a slight uptrend. It could move completely sideways, or it could be a big breakout up. I'm not actually saying specifically I think we're going to get a big breakout up. I'm standoffish about making any final determinations like that because there's just a lot of possibilities in the ways this can play out. But I'm anxious to see what happens. I'm hesitant to get in because I want to see if it can develop a little bit more first. I don't want to get in too early and get stopped out before a breakout. That sucks. It happens all the time. It may happen. I may wake up in the morning and be up. It might be up 15%, and I will have missed out on like a nice 25x leverage play. But better to be safe than sorry. I always talk about risk management, right, and preserving your capital. The biggest key to investing is preservation of capital and building upon it, of course. But I don't define investing as building your capital because that's not really the most crucial base step. The most crucial base step is to preserve your capital. If you can preserve your capital, you can use it to build upon. You can't build your capital without first preserving your capital. So the definition, as far as I'm concerned, of investing, I think I've heard this somewhere, maybe in college or something. I don't remember where I learned it, but the definition of investing is the preservation of capital. Rather, the simplest definition of investing is the preservation of capital because that's your end goal. As long as you never lose money, you can always use that capital to make money. The second you lose any capital, you're never going to get it back. It doesn't matter. If you lose 10% of your capital and then you pick 50 trades in a row that do a 10x, you still made less money than you would have made if you had that 10% of your capital left. So that's why preserving capital is so important. And in circumstances like this, where I think there's a very reliable bullish scenario and there's a very decent, a medium to high likelihood that we're going to get a bounce up, since I don't know how far it'll go up and since I'm not 100% on it, I'd rather just stay out and let the trade develop a little bit more. It's not the end of the world if it bounces and I get in a little bit later, especially with BTC. I'm not worried about it. So I'm probably going to want to see what happens in the next couple candles. But that's what I'm looking for. The bottom of this cloud right here, one of my key Ichimoku dynamic supports is the bottom of the cloud, right where I mentioned earlier, 11.4 to like 11.350 in that range, with the absolute lowest being a little bit lower than that. Now that's, excuse me, that's on the 4-hour chart. Looking on the daily, again, looking for that Stoke reversal. That's going to be the key. And then just to remind you guys what I showed earlier, if you go all the way up to the weekly, you can see we are staring down the barrel of a big dump. There's going to be an even bigger dump after this. But for right now, looking at the weekly, I talked about on the stream earlier, the top of the cloud right here is really the key support. It can dip a little bit below it, but the top of the cloud is a pretty important key support here. That's why I said around 11.4. As it turns out, when you look at the 4-hour and you can see it refined with a little more detail, It actually goes down that support structure to the bottom of the cloud on the 4 hour, so around 11,325. So yeah, if we don't get this bounce here, then we're gonna have pretty bad dump, because once we dump into the cloud here on the weekly, we're probably dumping either all the way to the bottom of it or pretty damn close. That's why I said we could definitely get back down to the 8K, low 8K range, low to mid 8K range on the bigger correction. It has to happen. We're quite overbought, and we don't get this overbought. We don't get that overbought on the Stoke without a nice correction. I don't know the last time that hasn't been the case, but it's been the case for quite a while. At least the last year, every time we have one of these cycles, that's how it plays out. So we'll see what happens. If it were to push up here, it wouldn't be based on TA. It would be pure FOMO if some sort of news event came out or something like that. But we're definitely going to get this correction. I'm hoping for one more daily cycle. So the weekly cycle could still be anywhere from a day and a half to a week and change off. There's no way to know. But when you refine it and you look down at the daily, you can see it with more detail. It looks like we're probably imminently going to bounce since we have that oversold Stoke. RSI also came back down quite a bit. It's now under 60. It's about 50 right now, so that's a good sign. All the signs are there to get the nice bounce. I'm just not 100% sold it's going to happen right now, or at all in theory. But I'm looking at these various support structures. On the weekly, I got the top of the cloud. On the 4 hour, I got the bottom of the cloud. So we have some strong supports, and as long as those supports hold, there's a good chance we could bounce up. Now, a lot of the time when BTC starts bouncing after a pretty decent correction, and this correction's been going on for about a week now, a little under a week, when you have a week-long correction, it takes time for the market to stabilize and catch up. So what you'll often see is BTC will bounce and start running up. Then the alts will follow behind it a day, maybe 2 days, sometimes later in the same day, but it usually doesn't pump at the same time. Or if it does, the alts only go up a little bit while BTC is taking most of the action. BTC is getting that fresh capital injection. The alts usually aren't, but then when BTC is up a little bit and people are securing some of their profits, they'll move over into alts. And that's why you see that delay where the majors will run up, and then a day or two later, the alts start to get that switch where BTC will correct a bit and some of that money will flow into the altcoins. And that's not 100% ready yet either, and that's why I don't want to get into alts either. So we can look at a few charts. I said a couple of them like RAN and RVN starting to look really good. I'm still hesitant to jump in, but since some of the alts are actually getting some bullish action, even though everything is still correcting, several of these alts are quite bullish, so I might have to jump into a couple of them. We'll see. I'll take a look at a few. Does anybody have any questions about my BTC thoughts and what I'm thinking about on BTC? Use the chat on YouTube, and I will answer any questions you guys have. What do you mean? In your conservative estimate, are we peaking Q1 2021 instead of Q4 2021? I'm not sure what you mean. Let's see where the monthly was. I don't remember. Yeah, that does not bode well. The monthly is getting pretty close too, and that's the big one. So once we get the bearish weekly reversal, chances are that monthly is going to be right there, if not there already. So it's really far out. And again, when I talk about the way I analyze charts, a lot of the time you guys have all seen me say, hey, we're about to bounce on this, or I bet we bounce to exactly this level on that. The reason I'm usually so precise with my timing, where I'll say like, hey, we're going to bounce within the next hour, is because, and I know I keep talking about this all the time, but there's some basic members here who don't hear me talk about this on my live streams. So my apologies to premium guys who are used to hearing me talk about this exact thing. But if I'm looking at this chart and I'm like, hey, within the next 1 or 2 candles, we're going to get a nice bounce. Well, when I'm trading based on the hourly or the 15-minute chart, I could say that to you. And what am I telling you? If it's going to be 1 or 2 more candles at the most on the 2 hour, at most it would be 2 hours on the hourly chart, right? 2 candles would be 2 hours. And if I say at most 1 or 2 more candles before we bounce, that means it could be as little as 15 minutes. If I'm looking at a 15-minute chart, 1 candle is just 15 minutes from now. So I can be really precise when I provide those types of analyses where I see that there's an imminent bounce or an imminent correction coming based on a combination of my Ichimoku dynamics indicator and my Stoke model, where I use the stochastic oscillator. When I'm looking at the monthly chart and I'm saying, hey, we're really close, we're about to cross over, it's very possible on this candle we can start turning bearish, and that could be the beginning of a pretty big long-term dump. If I were to say that, it wouldn't really make much sense, because all I can tell you is it's probably going to happen within the next couple candles because we're getting really close. Well, the next couple candles on the monthly chart is literally 2 months away. So there's no way that I can say when that big correction is going to come. You really can't this far out. Anybody who says they can is lying. There's no way to tell. There's no metric. There's no pattern that would give you that much information with that much advance notice. Obviously, right? Intuitively, you would know that. So when I'm looking at these things and I can say there's going to be a big dump, I can't say exactly when, but the weekly and the monthly are both screaming that they're going to dump. When the Stokes overbought like that on the higher time frames, I have never found an instance where it didn't correct. The question is only how much it corrects. So I'm guaranteeing you, I would put any amount of money on it, we're going to see a pretty strong dump. The question is, how high do we get before that happens? And the second question is, how big is the dump going to be? Are we going to push up to 13 or 14K and then dump 10%? That wouldn't be that big of a dump. I'm talking about 20 to 40% correction, most likely. Like, let me give you an example. The last time the Stoke was overbought like this, right, and got a big longer term correction, that was the 2017 high all the way to the bottom at 3,200 before we recovered and started running up again. Now, that aspect, since that's the only data we're seeing on this chart, that's not all there is to it. That's not all there is to the pattern. There are other variables, and a lot of the time, especially in a bullish environment, you'll start to turn south and get a little bit of a bearish turn before resetting a little bit, just enough to get that momentum to bleed off on the indicator so you can reset your indicators and start another push up. In a bull market, it's very common where you'll start that correction exactly as I imagined it's going to happen, except we get an earlier reversal and start pushing up again more aggressively. So that can happen, which is why I'm not saying it's definitely going to drop X. You know, there's no way for me to tell this far out. I'm just kind of telling you what I'm thinking about at this point so you have a general idea. But hopefully that explains why I can't be very precise with these longer term analyses. At least not to say like, oh, it's going to happen within this amount of time. And again, I already mentioned we can get that short term upward move where it's like sideways and a little bit up, or we can get a big pump. So we'll see what happens. But I would, again, just like I would bet anything, we're going to get a big dump relatively soon. We're probably going to get a bounce equally as soon, because the same way I just explained, every time it's bearish, we go down. Every time we're bullish like this and we're oversold on the Stoke on the 4 hour, we go up. We're also coming down. We're sitting on a horizontal support right now. We're also sitting on this pink line, which is a really, really old trend line that I've had. And when that trend line comes into play and it holds, it tends to be a very strong trend line. So there's a good chance it can actually hold right at that trend line and then bounce up from there. The biggest key is going to be the daily, whether or not we can get that daily reversal without waiting a whole nother day and a half. I'd like to get moving relatively soon. All right, well, nobody had any questions about my analysis on the BTC side of things. Crypto once, top of the bull. I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't mapped it out that far. He was asking if I'm thinking that we'd peak at the beginning of the year instead of the end of next year. But I haven't mapped it up to where I mean, I know roughly what I expect to happen. I've explained that, we're going to have a big correction before the next wave up, and the next wave up is going to be astronomical because this wave up was really, really strong from 3,200 all the way to 13.5, 14K at one point. But we'll see. Gotta give it time. I don't really know exactly how it's going to play out and when it's going to play out like that. But I would say, just thinking about it roughly, the beginning of the year of 2021, no, we would probably peak later in the year. Because if we get a big longer-term correction that's going to take, at a minimum, a few weeks, that's going to carry us pretty much to the end of the year. So then if we start a run-up from there, I don't think we would be getting to much higher levels on BTC until later into 2021. I think that makes more sense. I'm just checking a couple things. Then we'll take a look at some of the alts. If you guys have any alts you want me to look at, I could take a couple requests, but again, chances are there's a very select few that look like they're strong enough that I'd be willing to risk my capital on. But even any trades right now that look like they're low risk, what I would normally call a low risk trade, is probably going to be high risk the way I personally classify them, just because there's really no way to know exactly how it's going to pan out until we get more information. So give me a second. I'm just looking at a couple trades here, and then we'll take a look at some of the alts and see what we can spot. I noticed briefly looking through it again. RVN looked good and Ren looked good. So they're following along with BTC, but you can tell again we got some green on the charts, some green on the wall, and that green tells me that there are some particularly bullish alts that are holding during the BTC correction, and in some cases actually going up. So I might want to get into those, even though they're already up a little bit, and I'm not getting as good of a surgical entry at the bottom. I'm getting it a bit late, but I can still capitalize on it. Getting into one of the ones that's solid red and has been so all day, you're trying to catch the knife at the bottom, and getting that bottom reversal is never particularly easy. So it might make more sense to focus on the few that are actually bullish right now and outperforming Bitcoin. RLCs, and, maybe Matic, IOTA, MTL. I'll look at all those. All the ones that are looking green over here while everything else is red. I want to take a peek at what those look like. So, all right, let me just change this order and then go through my watch list, at least, maybe the bottom 10 or 15. We'll see if any of those look attractive, and then you guys can let me know what you guys think. If there are a few coins you wanted to take a look at that you think fit my model, I'd be happy to check them out. Maybe we could do another, 150? Another 15 or 20 minutes to go through some of the alts. Oh, I should have got into that ICX trade. What the hell? I beat. Thanks, Jackie. All right, yeah, one link. Well, so I'll get to link when I run through this list. So, IOTX, another one of my trades that broke up really well, corrected along with everything else, riding along the bottom of the cloud right now. What does that remind you of? BTC, right? BTC is riding on the bottom of the cloud on the 4 hour. This is one of the few I may actually get into. So it's sitting on the bottom of the cloud. There's some strong support down there. We also have a nearly confirmed reversal on the Stoke. There's 2 hours left in this 4 hour candle. I don't necessarily want to wait, but I may. Let me just look at what potential entries I could mess around with if I were to pull the trigger on this. So I really love that sitting on the bottom of the cloud like that, that key Ichimoku dynamic support. That is a really, really cool potential setup. Now, that wick that shot down complicates things because we could, in theory, get another one of those. But assuming we didn't, I just want to see if I were to enter a round right now, I could keep my risk to well under 2%. I could actually place my stop loss about 1.5% below my entry. That makes it fairly low risk. So IOTX is one of the few that has some potential. Let me see. Let me take a look at a few others, but I think I might pull the trigger and buy up some IOTA right now, or IOTX right now, because it does look attractive. It has perfect placement at the bottom of the cloud, plus other horizontal supports that you can't really see on that version of the chart, but and the reversing Stoke, that's a really bullish sign. And it's actually front loading on BTC. BTC is a little behind. You can see the reversal on the 4 hour Stoke for BTC hasn't quite gotten to that position yet where it's in a reversal position. It's just pending confirmation. And the reason I say it's pending confirmation is because the way it looks right now, it looks like there's a bullish reversal, right? The blue took over the orange on top and it's starting to turn up. But the way it works is if it were to dump right now and just tank before this candle closes in the next 2 hours, then we would end up with a reversal on this, and it would end up just kind of continuing sideways or going south. If we get a confirmation with a green candle here, then this will actually continue up and probably serve as a confirmation of a highly likely uptrend. So I'm thinking IOTX may be the best candidate if I'm going to jump into anything. But let me quickly run through some of the others and see if there's anything I spot that looks good. And SXP corrected a lot. The last 2 times I got into SXP, it broke out for like 10% at first. And then the first time I moved up my stop loss and I got some profit out of it. The second trade the other day, I never moved up my stop loss because I was just too busy doing stuff. And I ended up losing. But it was a great analysis. I wasn't available to move my stop loss up aggressively. I probably should have set it up on 3 commas to do it for me, but it is what it is. Oh, I gotta get more JST. Look how cheap that is. Like, that's ridiculously cheap relative to where it was. I think I'm going to get some more. I'm probably going to add, again, I mentioned this before, but JST is a long-term a long-term hold where I accumulate little bags here and there to add on to my position. Nothing too crazy. I'm not putting too much behind it because it might take a while before it pays off a dividend, but I'm pretty confident it will. So I'm going to keep cost averaging down, buy a little bit at a lower price. That allows me to lower my overall entry when I'm calculating my profit, and that's the game. You know how that works. That was another one. Had a 10% breakout before this big correction. So pretty much everything got hit, all of my trades. Now we are sitting on a decent horizontal support there, but what's more interesting is the 222 EMA, which is holding pretty well. The problem with this is getting back into VET becomes tricky when we're actually seeing pretty large dips like that, those big wicks coming out. It makes it hard because if your stop loss is too tight, you may end up getting stopped out before a breakout. So I don't think I'm in a position to get back into VET. It's just a little risky. Wait a minute. All right, so yeah, VET, a little bit more unpredictable. It looks like it's getting there. It's not quite as ready as IOTX. Oh, I'm placing orders for IOTX now. I'm going to pull the trigger on it. It's not that much risk. All right. Let me, you know what? That's close enough. All right, I'm in. Just to give some insight for people who check out my short-term plays channel later, they can see what my entry looks like. Now, again, everything about this trade normally I would say is really low risk, as we talked about. Nothing is low risk right now when it's this uncertain. I mean, look at the daily. The daily's looking really bullish too. Everything looks great. Really liking this IOTX idea. Come on. God damn it. Hold on. Get. Go. 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 That's it. Yeah. Go. Alright, dog's being annoying. Give me 1 second. I gotta run the dog upstairs. I just told her to go up and then she ran right back down when I came into my office. So I'm gonna lock her up. I'll be right there. Hold on 1 second. Go. Come on. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, so let me post that to the group. All right. So vet, yeah, not touching that. We talked about that. Link, I'm pretty sure there's a really good chance it's gonna bounce here, but I don't want to get into it. For a short-term trade, I've accumulated more. I would buy more at this level for like a long-term bag, though. So if you guys want to buy some Link for like a longer-term position and you're okay with holding it, even if it goes down a little bit more before it goes up, this is a really great time to get in. The 4 hours turning up, the daily is looking really bullish again. That's got a full reset, which it's taken a while to get down to. It's still going to have a bigger correction long-term, but I'm not worried about long-term right now. I'm talking about a short-term trade. I would ignore the higher time frame Stokes anyway. They're not particularly relevant here. The daily seems to fit well, and the 4 hour really fits well. Well, it goes off and on. It was really well. It was cycling perfectly for a while, and then it was zigzaggy for a bit. So, but now it seems to be pretty much back to normal. The bottom of the cloud was a really strong support, so it bounced right off that Ichimoku dynamic support, one of my key support zones. So getting in for a longer term hold here would be fine. I'm just not getting in a short term trade because I just don't have a good entry. If I were to enter right now, I don't have a strong support where I could place my stop loss just below it. It's kind of a no man's land below my main supports on the hourly, so I'm going to let this one go by even though I really do like this setup. I did just buy some more, though, for my long term position. Let's see what's next. Winnie, I only let one annoying woman scream and shout at me. And that's because I get to put my penis in her. Okay. Well, Link's already moving a bit, so that's good. BTC is still holding right at that level. There's a really good chance we bounce here. An hour and 45 minutes left on this candle. I'm not gonna get into BTC yet. I'm thinking about it, but like I explained, I'm just not 100% ready. I'm not there yet. I'll give it a little bit more time, maybe before I go to sleep, which is going to be pretty soon. It's already 2:30 or 2:15, and I'm trying to shift back to a more normal human schedule. Whoa, everything's ticking really quick. See, we're still pretty far up above the bottom of the cloud. I would have liked to get a bounce off the bottom of the cloud, so there's still a chance we can come down a little bit more on the majors, just a tiny bit more to get that final bounce. So, like the hourly's turning up, the hourly is going to get rejected pretty soon, probably like 395 on Ethereum, maybe below that, even 394 and changed. It might actually make it to like 393 before coming back down, but I think the hourly is going to come back down. If we could just get back down a little bit lower, I'd be happy to get into Ethereum. If I could buy in a little bit closer to the bottom of the cloud on the 4 hour. So if we dip down a little further and I can get in at like anywhere from 379 to 382 even, I'd be happy to get in that range. The lower the better, of course. So Ren is one I mentioned a little while ago. I said looks really strong. That's already moving up, so I was right. There's no entry for me here as a short-term play. I'm considering just buying some and saying, you know what, I'm willing to let it be a longer-term hold, although if the Stoke had fully reset and we got back down to those lower levels, and yeah, I probably would be willing to get Ren here. Even it looks really strong. If you were to just buy Ren right now, there's a pretty good chance you're going to do okay. But it's just too risky for me, so I'm not going to do it. Again, risk management is too important. But yeah, this looks really strong. Ren looks really good. Pushing up right now. Now, XTZ turned up. Look at that. It corrected right to the 786 I had noted before. It went pretty much perfectly. Now, if you were to extend my original trend line, it actually fits pretty well if you just adjust it, right? So I didn't have it going to those wicks. If I do that, it fits pretty well. So it bounced pretty much right off the 786, the 78.6% fib retracement right here. After a pretty nice correction from the last pump, right? So we had that big run up and then this big correction down. Now, I got into that XTZ play like a boss. I was gorgeous. After this big correction, we pretty much retraced most of the way to the 786, so it would be a really good entry right now. I'm a little iffy about buying in where I don't have a clear support and resistance here, but this range happens to be a good horizontal support resistance, even though I don't have it noted, right? So you can see all those candles were getting rejected right at this level. We got big rejections right here, right at that level. And it happened to coincide pretty closely with the support. Other than a few wicks down, the bodies of those candles opened and closed right around that area. So that's a strong support. If I could buy it now, place my SL below that support, my SL is only 2% below my entry. It's not terrible. I think I'm probably going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm grabbing some XTZ, stand by. I'm going to load up, and then I'll make a quick chart to share it with the group. But I'm buying XTZ right here. My stop loss will go just below that $3.40 support. All right. come on, I missed that one. All right, I think it filled. Yeah, all right, I'm good. Okay, let me just mark this up. So in this case, again, Ichimoku dynamic support with the 222 EMA. Now it's not perfect, so I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. It's just one aspect of my model. I'm looking for various things. I'm looking for that. I'm looking at potential horizontal supports. I'm looking at Fibonacci retracements. I'm looking at various trend lines. So you have to look at a lot. You need to be dynamic. You can't focus only on one single solitary isolated indicator. Now, my Ichimoku dynamics are great because I have, well, essentially 5 different dynamic supports that I could utilize and look for information. So initially on this big run up, right, I got that big bounce off of the 55 EMA. Amazing entry. In this case, if we had bounced right off the 222, I would have been very happy, and I would have gotten in all the same. It didn't hold perfectly, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean anything. The rest of the Ichimoku dynamic model is working perfectly, right? So look at this. We broke down into the cloud. We bounced right off the bottom of the cloud, and we rode that with really strong support. I mean, we had a couple 2 weeks down, but look at how much support is at the bottom of the cloud there, right? So not only do I have, with my Ichimoku model, I don't just use the 5 dynamic supports, as most of you know. I have other rules that I follow, like once you enter the cloud, there's an extraordinarily 90% plus probability you're going to go to the other side of the cloud and test the other side, if not break it. In this case, we went to the other side of the cloud, tested the major support, went up to the top, tested the major resistance, got rejected, came back down, then the bottom of the cloud finally failed, right? But we went back and forth twice, which is exactly what I always predict. When we enter into the cloud, I always predict if we're hitting the top or the bottom. It's very common for me to say, I bet we go across the cloud to the other side, right? You guys hear me say that all the time. When we broke down into this cloud, that's what I thought. Same thing with Link. When my last Link trade stopped out, it was when we broke down into the cloud, and my first thought was, oh, we're going down to the bottom of the cloud. Sure enough, we did. It's exactly how it played out, and we bounced from there. It's a really simple strategy, and you'll notice that pattern all the time on almost every coin. Once you break into the cloud, you almost always go across to the other side of the cloud, and once you do, it's very common to bounce from that side back. And then maybe after 1 or 2 bounces, you'll finally break through the top or the bottom. But once you're in the cloud, the top and the bottom of the cloud are usually very strong resistance and support levels. And they're dynamic. It's not static, right? So no matter where the price is, we can go to all-time highs. BTC could be at 150,000. It doesn't matter. We still have a cloud, so we still have potential support and resistance without having prior trading history. We don't need to look left on the chart and see what happened the last time the price was there because the price has never been there, right? And in this case, you could actually see all this resistance over here, so that would also be a horizontal. And that's one of the other things I spotted with XTZ. So the 222 didn't hold perfectly, but there's a horizontal support here that I spotted where we had this rejection, a bunch of rejections here, and then we finally got the support this time around. I wouldn't be surprised if I look left and go back on this chart. I bet this same support was actually a support and resistance in the past. Let's do that really quick. Let me just see. So right here, right? Pretty close, right? We got rejected a little bit below it, but still pretty close. So that rough range, at least we know that that general area is pretty consistently support and resistance. All right, we haven't been up at this level quite a while, so we don't have enough data to really say that, but a lot of the time you'll find a support like that. You can go back and look, and you'll find that in the past it's been particularly relevant as well. So in this context, like I talked about with the cloud, the bottom of the cloud is going to be a resistance now, so we have to break through that. But just to finish my thinking, remember I said there was a horizontal support. That was one thing. The other thing that I really liked was that once I redrew this trend line, it hit perfectly, and the 786 Fibonacci retracement was right there. So you have confluence where there's multiple different supports. It's not just like, hey, it hit this 55 EMA, so I'm going to enter in. I like to see it hit the 55 EMA, but also hit a horizontal support that's there, while also hitting a 618 Fibonacci retracement. Then you have triple confluence. Then you have 3 different supports that it's bouncing off of at the same time. If those 3 supports are all in agreement, right? Each one of those different types of support, a Fibonacci support, one of the Fibonacci levels, which is a support, right? A retrace target. If the fib level is a support, the horizontal line from prior trading history is a support, and you have one of the Ichimoku dynamic supports as a support, you now have 3 different supports that are all telling you that the exact same level is going to hold. That dramatically increases the probability that it's going to be accurate, that it's actually going to hold at that level. So that's a lot of the time when I'll say like major or minor support resistance on my chart. Someone asked me about that on one of the more recent live streams. When you see major or minor support on some of these supports that I have on my chart, sometimes it means nothing because it's just old. Like I might have had this saying major support a year ago and it just still says that text-wise. But sometimes I'll add that because there's 3 or 4 different supports at the same area, and I believe it. I consider it to be a major support when I have confluence, where there's multiple different indicators and models telling me that that support is indeed a strong support. All right, so that was my entry. Place my stop loss. No, I entered lower than that. It doesn't matter. That's just to show everybody else who wasn't in the live stream what I'm doing. So. All right, I'm just trying to post that for the group. Okay, so Ren came back down a little bit. Still not going to get it. If Ren came all the way back down, close to the 55, I would buy it in a heartbeat right here. It looks incredibly strong right here. Now, one thing I may do, just to draw a quick trend line here, because you can see all these candles are bouncing right off that same level. So if it were to dip back down, say, and hit that trend line, if I were to buy it there, my stop loss would have to be probably all the way down here. So it would be like well over 3.5% below my entry. It's pretty low. That would be a pretty high risk stop loss rather, right? It's a high potential loss. So I wouldn't get into a short-term trade, but a long-term play wouldn't be a bad idea on Ren right now. I'm not going to do it, but if you wanted to buy Ren long-term, this is a good potential entry where you can enter it if you're willing to take some risk on it and a potential loss. Just make sure that if it does actually break up and it gets back above, say, 48 cents or so, you want to move your stop loss up and make it a risk-free trade. That way, you can't take a loss no matter what. BTC's bouncing a little bit. That's good. This BNB setup, this gets really tricky because the wick came down and hit the bottom of the cloud and a support that was there. And then it recovered and came right back up, but that doesn't necessarily complete it. It could still come back down and touch the bottom again. So I don't want to touch that. Now, ETC I spotted when I first started the stream. Now, this is an example where I had this support and resistance on my chart from a while ago. You can see how quite strong of a support it is, right? So it's been bouncing us every time we get down there. Bounced us again here. Finally broke down below it. Now we're hovering right at that level. So this is an example where it's an old support and resistance from my chart, and it's not precise. It's just like a minor support and resistance range, right? So everywhere from here down to here, there's some support in this general area. And you can see that goes all the way back here, right? So major rejection here, a lot of support in this general area. Oops. Where are we? We are right here. Yep, so see this from like SR range down to this SR, this whole area? Tons of rejections and bounces right in that range. Look, see? Like it was riding that range the entire time. Same thing over here. All this bouncing is right within that range. Big rejections, big support, all in that range. See? And this is from months and months ago. And I leave it on my chart because you never know when it's going to come in handy. And sure enough, right now it's telling me that it's in a very strong support range. So it's a bit risky again, but we're getting that reversal. We're getting that bullish reversal. So I'm going to pull the trigger on ETC as well. I'm doing it on my phone so I don't have to go to my other monitor and stop paying attention to the stream. So hold on. So I am also entering ETC here, and it might be the last alt I enter. I didn't want to get into too many alts right now, but I have to admit they're starting to look pretty strong. So I'm getting in, but I'm classifying them as medium high risk to high risk. Even though they look really strong, and I'm pretty confident I'm going to make some good money on these, it's still risky. I have to let everybody else know that it's risky because I don't want people to think just because I'm getting it, it's low risk. I'm really good at low risk trades, but every trade I get into is obviously not low risk. Sometimes I get into pretty risky ones too, and it's important that I let everybody know when it is indeed risky. Yeah, so I'm good. All right, so again, I have to clean this chart up because a lot of these aren't relevant anymore. Just looking recently, I don't need a lot of these support and resistances are just not that relevant anymore. You can see this one actually was pretty key, right? This big dump right around that level. This dump right around that level. This got pretty close. I'm going to consider that a win, right? So, and it was resistance over here. So you could see all of these little minor support and resistances are still valuable, quite valuable. Even though they're bunched and close together and it looks really messy, having that information is so fucking valuable. Nobody else does because everybody clears off their charts. They don't save support and resistances for all this time, right? It's such a weird way to gain an edge over other people. Like other people are like, oh, how the hell did you call that bounce there? And it's just like, because it bounced at that exact same level 14 times over the last 2 years. Just because it hasn't happened in 2 months, you had no idea that there was a support there. And the beauty of this is, this one actually is low risk, to be honest. Although, I didn't set my stop loss yet, so I'm trying to think. Like, all these wicks go down to relatively random areas. I mean, they get pretty close. They're all getting down right to this support, like the green one, the red one. But it's not perfectly... that would be too far. I'm not going to place my stop loss at 3.4%. Below that, obviously. That makes no sense. Since we have this reversal on the Stoke, and this is why the Stoke thing is so great. It's not like just because the Stoke's reversing it means we're going up. But what I'll do is, if I can find a strong enough support and we're bouncing off of a strong support, I can place my stop loss below that support. So I enter right on the support. My stop loss goes below the support. But there's more to it than that. I wouldn't have entered this trade if the Stoke was halfway up and it still had a trend coming down, because that means you're still in a downtrend of momentum, right? The momentum is still bleeding off. So you're not ready to get that reversal and push back up yet. But if you look at what happened the last time we came down, right? We bottomed out. We started to turn up. What happened when we started to turn up? ETC went up for 7.7%, right? Bottom to top. Bottom to top. Matches up perfectly. At the exact top, when we turned back down and came back down, we had this big dump. Same thing. Top to bottom, top to bottom. So the fact that the reversal on the Stoke model perfectly coincides with the bounce off my support, That's the confluence, same thing. I have two different strategies that are giving me the exact same piece of information. This is the spot that it bounces. Whether you're looking at the Stoke and this tells me that we're about to bounce, or we're looking at this support, which has held really well of late, both of those are telling me there's a high probability we bounce here. So you combine those together, that's a confluence support zone where I have a high level of confidence that I'm going to make some good money on it. So that's why I got in. It was a combination of both things. Let me share this with the group. No, yeah, for my SL, because I still have to set that. 1.5% below my entry was what I wanted to do. I'm just going to set it a little bit lower. I mean, so I'm going to put my stop loss at about like 655. Plus or minus a few fractions of a penny. So right around there. So I'm going to be risking just about 1.75% is the most I could possibly lose on this trade. All right, what else we got? So I mentioned RVN before, right? I said Ren was one that looked really strong. RVN is another, and this is why. 222 EMA. I spotted this when I was rolling through the different charts. We got a big bounce right off the 222. Key Ichimoku dynamic support. What was the other support before that wick bounced off the 222? The bottom of the cloud. What happened? We bounced, hit the top of the cloud, got rejected, came back down, and eventually failed. It looks almost identical to what we just discussed on XTZ, right? Very similar. Almost identical, actually. Got rejected from the top of the cloud, broke through the bottom after sitting along the bottom for a little while with the horizontal support. And again, this horizontal support is actually quite valid. This horizontal support, which is really old, is not nearly as valid as it used to be. I probably wouldn't keep it on the chart because it hasn't really been that valid in the last several months, but this rejection was pretty big, and the supports here are relatively close to it. I think it's probably okay to remove that one since we have others in close proximity. I probably want to go back left and see what else, if I go back, see how strong of a support it was in the past, and that would help me decide if I should get rid of it or keep it on the chart. If it was a really important support in the past, like the one I just showed you on ETC, I probably would opt to keep it on the chart. But I do realize it gets excessive, and I have to clean up my charts here. So in the case of RVN, looks really strong. We're getting very close to that Stoke reversal. Only thing on this one, I really love the bounces off the 222, including this one here. I wish the Stoke looked a little bit more consistent. This is one of those Stoke models where you're not getting a clean wave structure for the last few days. You were over here during this whole period. Look, bottom to top, bottom to top, to bottom, to top, right? Top to bottom, top to bottom, bottom to top, bottom to top, top to the bottom of the Stoke, top to the bottom of the price. This was a perfect, clean Stoke wave cycle structure. Repetitive wave structure over and over again, from crest to trough to crest to trough. Very easy to predict those reversals when you have a nice clean wave structure like that. When it starts doing its little zigzag effect, it becomes virtually impossible to use, so I haven't been able to of late. However, the most recent push up was perfectly represented here. The price push matched up perfectly with the Stoke cycle, and then this Stoke correction matched up perfectly with the price correction. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get a bullish reversal here since the others are doing it already, and BTC and ETH both look like they're about to replicate the exact same thing. I'm pretty confident that we're going to bounce pretty nicely here. The only issue is if I were to enter right here, my stop loss would be to get it below the 222 EMA in case it dips back down again. No, that's too much risk. 3.5% below my entry. I really, really like this for a potential breakup. But, oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. But I'm not going to do it because it's a little too risky and you got to know when to walk away, even when I really like it. Not the butt, but the model here. Oh, that was a question. Mickey Mods, Lefkowitz. Is Lefkowitz your real last name? Are you a nice Jewish boy? Darth. Which retests of your EMA's time frames do you look to enter safe confirmed bounce for a BTC entrance? When would I consider entry on BTC? I am known for being nice and politically correct. I try. It's an art form. You should see me and this person on Twitter who does a lot of like protest videos, and I help them find streams and stuff, and we joke around together a lot. They were trolling some idiot, and I jumped in, and we kind of went back and forth. It was like a whole bit. It was hilarious. I gotta find. I'll have to show you guys. It was really funny. We were calling the people pedophiles and Nazis and stuff, just fucking with them. They were losing it. It was really funny. Oh, nice. You were in After Action Reports stream? Yeah, I told him to make me a mod in his live stream. So when I pop up in the chat, I'll pop up, with the what Winnie has, the blue with the wrench. So I can make jokes and stand out. Because I'm in a group with him and some other people where we chat about that stuff. So I'm gonna tell him he doesn't have a choice, he has to add me. Alright, so RBN, I'm going to stay back even though I really do like it. I forgot what else I was talking about, so I'm just going to move on. Look at that. Look at that quantum. Boom. 55 EMA. Launch. Like, really? Look at this. 55 EMA. Launch. 55 EMA. Launch. How is my model not, like, absurdly simple and incredibly profitable? It's really nuts, right? Oh, man, I really wish I could have caught that. Look at that. Right as it coincides with a bullish as fuck reversal on the 4-hour Stoke model. Oh, man. Might come back down before... No, we're probably going to push up more. I was thinking, do I have enough supports on the lower time frames, like on the hourly, where I can justify an entry, but I don't even see any good supports here. I'm actually going to delete a couple of these, because this is from when I was scalping, and I was looking at like 15-minute and 5-minute charts. Yeah, there's nothing I could do with quantum. I'm going to leave quantum alone for now. Come on. Is that... Come on, guys. Like, it's like you're trolling me, right? Look at this. 55 EMA, bounce, launch. 99 EMA, bounce, launch. Came back down, hit the 222, and we bounce and launch again. This is what's going to happen. We're just going to launch from here because we bounced off of my main Ichimoku dynamic support at the 222 EMA. As we coincided with the 4-hour bullish reversal on the Stoke, we also have a bullish reversal on the daily starting. NKN is about to go for a freaking blast off. Watch. I really want to get into NKN here. Alright, there's some, you can see, I just spotted it. We're right here, right? Major rejections, right? All these candles got rejected right from that level. And then look at this. All that support at that exact same level. We had a couple wicks down, but again, all that support. This big dump got pretty close to that level. This big dump got exactly where that level was before it bounced again. And then on this dump, it was riding along that level before it broke down, right? So now we're coming back up against what that support was, which is now a resistance. I don't know how strong it'll necessarily be. All right, let me look at the lower time frames and see if I can find some supports. I think what I'm going to have to do is wait and see if it breaks up above that level. And then I could buy at 31.15 or so. All right, so if I were to enter right there, then my SL can go below that horizontal support. Now looking at the hourly, it looks like we're pretty high on the Stoke. We might have to come down a little bit. So yeah, it's a good thing I waited. I'm going to wait off. All right, I'm going to set some alerts. I'm going to let it go for right now, and then when I get a notification, I'll probably just buy in. Although what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set a buy order. It's not going to be a huge buy order, but right around 3,100 and change, so like 3,100, 3,110, or maybe 3,105. No, closer to 3,115. I'm placing one order there, and then that's going to be like quarter of what I intended to buy. And then the rest, if that gets triggered and I get an alert, then I'll come in and buy more. But I don't want to buy too much just in case we were to bounce up and get rejected and come back down hard. But I think we're going to come back down without getting above that resistance. And then the next move up after we reset a bit for a couple hours is when we push through that resistance. So that's what I think's going to happen. We'll see if I'm right. All right, I'm all set for now. We'll come back to that. All right. So Cody's already running up pretty aggressively. It looks really strong. It might have it's just run up a little aggressively. Like, look at this. These are all getting the bounce now, right off the 222. It's perfect. I should have entered right there. I keep missing these. I'm getting kind of pissed. I need to get on, pay attention just like an hour earlier, and I would have caught so many of these setups. Look at that. Look at FTM. Top of the cloud and the 99 EMA. Boom. Perfect, right? Strong support. Other wick. Boom. Perfect. Yeah, there's nothing I can do with that one either. It's just too far. It's already broken up. I got to get ones that are like a little bit closer to the supports down here, right? So I got to find the limited trades I can where I can control risk. Again, this is just way too risky to get into that. Tomo may work if I can snipe a lower entry. Now this guy, same thing. It's a little bit too high in the risk, but OGN looks really strong too. Like really, really, really strong. Oh man, I'm in love with this actually because of that support. Just the horizontal support. I'm loving it. I think I'm gonna get some and hold it just as a potential longer term hold. Oh, look at that. That hit perfectly. Kind of considering just doing it. If I were to enter right now, SL, yes, that's so damn risky. For a long-term play, it's not, though. And looking at the hourly, we should come down a little bit. So I want to let the price come down as well, just like I was talking about with NKN. So I need to watch NKN. I got to watch OGN. If the prices on those can come down a little bit, then I could jump in. Nothing with EDA. I'm not touching ELF, although that big breakout, I kind of called that. I said that it was looking really bullish, like it might break out. BAT reset a bit. It's been on a really strong run, so it may want to reset a little bit more. It looks like it's holding pretty well right around this level, though, so... All right, what else we got? Ooh, la la. That's pretty. I think I can pull the trigger on this. It's close. Let's see what else I'm looking at here. I'm going to cycle through these really quick because it's getting late and I got to crash them. Okay, this is my last one for sure. ONT. This is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful bounce setup. Confluence with the top of the 55 EMA and the cloud. In addition to that, we have other supports there. It was a support with the big wick down as well. There's a lot of horizontal supports here, giving it a whole region of potential support. This is an old one that's no longer valid. This is a clear resistance that still is, but it's a very minor resistance. I don't think it's going to give us much trouble getting above it, given the amount of uptrending support we have below it with the 55 EMA on the top of the Ichimoku cloud. I said that without breathing once. That reset looks extraordinarily bullish on the Stoke. The RSI is back down to 50. Let me see what the daily looks like. Oh, man, the daily's crossed over bullish. Sold. I am in. All right, I'm loading up on ONT right now. Stand by a minute, boys. Okay. I'm good to go. I think ONT is going to be the last one I want to get into. Oh no, I think my overall average entry may be a little bit higher. Because I did buy a couple times. I set a few different orders rather. %28 locked in for one of my more recent trades. On ONT. So I got ONT going. Got ETC going, XTZ, and IOTX so far. Well, more than so far. I don't think I'm getting into any other trades. I'm pretty sure that's it. So, I did like IOTA when I first spotted it, but it's right in the middle of the cloud. That's why I ended up going with ONT instead. Don't like FET below the cloud like that. Same thing with H-bar. Not a big fan of that layout. I like the bounce off the 222 EMA. If it was sitting right on the 222 with a nice reversal on the Stoke, I may actually get in, but it's obviously bounced quite a bit since then, so I'm going to stand back. I wish I got into this ICX pump, though. Look at that. Damn, that's close, right? Look at that on Ethereum. I can't get into a big Ethereum trade, though. Price is just a little bit too high for that. Doge is riding the 222 quite well. It might not be a bad idea to jump into Doge, actually. Look at this, right? I just kind of spotted this. Again, you look at charts long enough, you'll see this shit with the naked eye. Few things. Horizontal support up here, right? With an uptrend right here. That forms an ascending triangle. Potential big breakout. Then, take a look right here. Support, 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 support. Resistance for a long time, and then more resistance. This is a really important support and resistance right here, and it happened to also be exactly where we just bounced multiple times. Couldn't ask for a better support. Now, if I were to enter, my SL can go. I'm not putting my SL. All right, so I'm not getting into anything else. But if you want to get into Doge, you could enter here, put your stop loss below that support. I'm just not taking 2.75% risk on another trade. I'm good with the trades I have for now. I wanted to take it slow anyway, but yeah, this looks really, really strong. ECH may be the better path since Bitcoin and Ethereum are not in a position where I can get in with a low risk entry. Since the EMA, the 222 is holding so perfectly until this wick, right? These two wicks. But I'm going to get in. I'm going to do, instead of doing, I was going to do Ethereum and BTC with a 25x margin trade. Instead, what I'm going to do, so if I were to enter, see, that's a good prior top. See that? Double rejections here and here. So that's a double top. We could max out to that level, which could be a 14% run if we get that bullish run on the daily model, right? Like I was talking about the entire time. We're getting that crossover now, and it seems to be a little bit earlier than the other majors. I would say of all the majors, this is the best odds. So I'm going to do this with a 10x trade instead of going for the 25x that I was going to do with the other trades. If Ethereum does come down a little bit and I can get a better entry, then I'll take that larger trade. But instead, I'm just going to take pretty much half of the capital that was going into that long-term trade I was planning and using it on BCH. All right, so I got, I still need, it's down slightly. All right, I'm just going to market buy. Bitcoin Cash is liquid enough. It can handle some market buys without them affecting the market, so that's good. Now I can send my update to the group, and we're good to go. It's 3 o'clock. I think I'm just going to call it a night, if you guys don't mind. 222, incredibly strong here on HT. You can see that, right? Buying in here. SL just 2% below entry. I am going to do this because I have money on my BitMax account, and I don't have any open trades there right now. I just have a bunch of capital sitting there. I don't have any day trades open. But given how strong the 222 has been holding up here, and again, and this old, look, this is another example. This has been on my chart for months. Major support right here. Look, boom, boom, boom. Major resistance. Like, that's literally been on my chart for months. All right, shit. All right, I'm gonna open up another position on HT, and then I'm done looking. Nothing else. I quit. I'm done for the night. I have to start going to sleep earlier. Otherwise, I'm going to stay on the stream until 5 a.m. And I'm going to get into more trades than I can track. So I got into good trades. I'm happy with the trades I got into. If I happen to spot anything else that's earth-shattering, I'll let you guys know, and I'll probably open up a position. But for now, I'm going to call it a day. I will look at a couple more things that you guys asked me to. So I'll take a quick look at Algo, and then somebody else asked me to look at XRB, whatever that is. Me. Almost done. Yeah, I even got 10x margin on HT as well. Shit, I never even set my stop loss on my last trade. I'm not worried about potential targets right now. I could deal with that later. Drag that off the screen. All right. That's it now. All right, let me do this before I let you guys go. Algo also looks really strong. Look at that bottom of the cloud. Incredible bounce off the bottom of the cloud, riding the 99 EMA. Algo's guarantee it's going up, and it's going to keep going up until it at least touches the top of the cloud. It may get reversed and get rejected and come back down. But if it breaks through, it's going to be pretty strong, and it looks really, really bullish. So I really like Algo. I'm not going to get in now because I'm already in enough trades, and if I buy in now, I don't have any supports to put my stop loss, but it looks incredibly strong. I love Algo. This is a storybook fairy tale example of everything I've been showing you on all those other charts. It bounced exactly off the bottom of the cloud. It's been riding the 99 EMA. We got the bullish reversal confirmed on the Stochastic oscillator. Everything about this is telling me that it's going to keep going up, at least for a little while, which means you will have plenty of time to move your stop loss up to your entry and make it a risk-free trade so you can't possibly lose any money. All right, so that's my thought on Algo. Like I said, looks really, really, really bullish. I'm just not personally getting into it. And then the other request was to take a look at XRB. Did he mean X? Did he mean XRP? Because I don't see any cryptocurrencies with XRB. Is that what he said? XRB. Maybe he meant Ripple? So this is an old SL I had from a prior trade, but it actually fits perfectly. So I'm going to make that support. Look, support bounce. Support bounces here. Bounce, rejection. Okay. If he was talking about XRP, that trend line is killer. Man, I might actually have to get into Ripple. Look at this. Check this out, guys. So we have really strong, we have good horizontal support right here, right? So we bounced off of that horizontal support. The bottom of the cloud is also right there, and it's trending up, which is always a very, very bullish sign. We also have this trend line down, which was broken and was tested multiple times and provided adequate support. So I were to enter right here, and my stop loss were to go, this would be a little too risky. My stop loss would have to go over 3% below my entry. But if XRP comes down a little bit, that would be good. I'm not going to make a trade on this, but it's probably a good trade as well. It looks really, really good. Yeah, I'll leave it alone. But if you wanted to get in, XRP, potential entry right now, I just have enough trades going on, so I'm just not going to get crazy. BitMax. I have a BitMax account, not BitMax. BitMax is a good exchange. I've used it for a little while, and some trades I've gotten into have been exclusively on BitMax. Bolt was on BitMax for a while. Well, it still is. That's where I was trading Bolt for a little while. So, but they do have HT token, Huobi token, along with other exchange tokens. All right, last request, Neo, because it's right here. It's going to remain bullish. We just got the bullish reversal. Very clean wave structure here. This is a straight up parabolic move, but it's not even done. It's getting done. I would probably, if you're already in it, I would consider taking profit. But it looks like we might get a while. It might run all the way up to over $20, based on this next Stoke cycle. So when it does dump, it's going to dump hard. So if you're in Neo, make sure you're moving up your stop loss progressively and locking in profit. So if it does dump hard, you won't lose your profit back. You'll be able to get out with a nice solid profit margin. Now, this is parabolic. You're going to have a really big dump, but since we just started this 4-hour Stoke cycle, there's a good chance we're going to run up for a little while. Looking at the daily, not very helpful, but that's probably going to come crashing down pretty hard after a parabolic run like that. Maybe not as big as that one, but that had a pretty nice cup and handle too. Nothing you could do with Neo now for a fresh entry. You could ride up the current run, but there's nothing you could do about getting in now. You just missed the boat. That's all there is to it. Man, there's some other alts here I want to take a look at. I really got to get to bed, guys. This sucks. All right, let me go get ready for bed. If I could take a look at a couple of them, if I see any setups that I find particularly compelling, I'll let you guys know in the chat, all right? I'll hop on Discord and let you guys know. Chances are I'm just going to let my open trades go. And, hey, I'm teaching you guys. So, like, you don't need me to go through every single coin in my watch list, right? I just showed you, you know, everything I'm looking for. Go check out whatever you want to check out. If you find something that looks like a good setup, take a screenshot, post it in the premium chat, ask the other premium members, including the mods and myself. If I'm awake, I'll take a look. If it looks like it's good and you spotted it correctly, I'll say, hey, that looks exactly like what I would trade. So there you go. You know you now have a knack for it. That's why teaching you how to do it is so much more important than just entering trades on my own and sharing them with you and expecting you to enter them. That's why I don't like doing signals, because we're very unique and we're very different people with our own risk tolerance. Right now, I'm not going to open a trade where I have to risk 4% capital, but you very well might. It's a personal decision. So I'm teaching you what I look for and how I can so accurately predict these reversals and breakouts, and you're seeing them in action right now. So, all right, I got to kill the stream. I have to start getting to bed earlier. It's 3:20. I was trying to go to bed at midnight tonight, and obviously I'm not good at that. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. If you need me, hit me up in the chat. I mean, premium, obviously. The cheapskates and basic aren't allowed to tag me. But if you want, tag me in the chat, and I'll hop on before I go to bed. But thanks for coming by. Hopefully we'll make money overnight, and tomorrow I'll be able to do a stream and we could talk about how much we're up and celebrate. Smoke a proverbial bowl together, celebratory bowl. All right, talk to you guys later.